Order! Salazar! Halt! Let keep! Order! Halt! Right! Order! Halt!
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, we're also honored today to have another Long Branch High School student with us today, Angie, and she's going to sing the national anthem for us. Angie?
Ready! And halt!
The guards and Angie for a beautiful opening up of our ceremony today. We have several of our Board of Trustee members here today. Standing next to Angie is Janice Grace. Seated is Dr. Mary Jane Selly. Who else do we have? John Pallone, Barbara Untermeyer, Riker, Carton. Who else do we have here? Lisa Kelly. Who else is here? Who am I missing? Is that it? John, we got John? All right, good. If anyone wants to learn a little bit about President James Abram Garfield and his tea hut over here, you can join us and we'll start the tour over here. Thank you. Don't be afraid. You can come a little closer. I work in a high school, and the students constantly tell me that I have a very intimidating voice. So please don't feel intimidated. But with no microphone. As you know, unfortunately, James Garfield was one of the 7 presidents that summered here in Elbron during the Victorian era. And on July 2nd, 1881, he was actually leaving the White House to come here to Elbron to pick up Mrs. Garfield. And then the two of them were going to continue on to Williams College, where Garfield would be the keynote speaker at his 25th college reunion. Unfortunately, when he got to Union Station, he was met by a disappointed office seeker who had a pistol, and he shot the president. Garfield was taken back to the White House for the summer of '81, and he lingered all summer long. It was hot. There was no air conditioning back then. And in early September, the decision was made to bring him back here to Elbron, to an oceanfront cottage almost across the street, in hopes that the beautiful fresh air, the salt air, and the sea breezes would aid him in his recovery. The decision to do that was made on September 5th, to bring him the following day, September 6th. What they didn't want was to have him be taken off the train at the Elbron train station, placed into a carriage, and then drive the last eighth of a mile down Lincoln Avenue to the oceanfront cottage. So starting at 6 p.m. on September 5th, they decided to build a railroad spur from the Elbron station right to the front porch of the Franklin Cottage. And it's really amazing when you think about what they accomplished in less than 15 hours of completing that eighth of a mile spur. And sure enough, the next day, the train arrived about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and as it switched from the main track to the temporary track, if you've ever been there on Pleasant Place when it connects to Lincoln Avenue and the Elbron Library, you know there's that slight incline to the roadway. And the train slowed. It didn't stop, it slowed, and there were thousands of people watching the train. No one spoke a word, and all simultaneously, everyone just grabbed a hand of the train and helped push it up that little last part of the way to get onto the Lincoln Avenue. Unfortunately, 13 days later, President Garfield died. They actually had, the next morning, a small little service in the foyer to the Franklin Cottage, and the flag that was placed over his coffin on that morning of the 20th is actually part of our collection here at the Church of the President's Museum. It's currently on loan to the Ocean Township Museum, which really has a spectacular presidential exhibit open from now until June. So if you haven't seen it yet, please feel free to do so and stop by, because a lot of our artifacts are there at the Ocean Township Museum. After President Garfield was taken back to Washington, D.C., and the formal funeral services were conducted, the railroad ties off Lincoln Avenue were taken up. And I guess the Tom Cruise or the Leonardo DiCaprio of the day was a guy by the name of Oliver Byron. And he purchased some of the railroad ties and one of the spurs, or the rail, and he built this hut from the railroad ties, and the spur is up top. The rail is up top as the ceiling joist inside the building. This actually was built by a Long Branch family, William Presley. Some of you may remember the Presleys in North Long Branch. I think it was Presley's Garage. Well, their, I guess, grandfather is the one who actually built this tea hut. After the Byron family moved out of the area, the tea hut itself was returned from the Byrons to the Presley family, and it remained at the Presley's property in North Long Branch for many years. And then sometime in the 1960s, it was donated to the Church of the President's Museum. Through the generosity Most recently, about 5-6 years ago, the Monmouth County Historic Commission gave us a grant, and we were able to restore the building. And you know, we had to put a foundation underneath. You can see one of the railroad spurs had to be replaced because that was rotted, but the rest of it is, you know, original to the 1881 track that went down Lincoln Avenue. Are there any questions about this phase of the tour today? James Garfield, what did he and President Grant say 2 weeks before Garfield was assassinated, when Garfield was here at the Elbron Hotel, and all the newspapers went wild because President Grant, as you know, was the most popular president to stay here at Long Branch, but now he was the ex-president, and now the current president was there, and the newspapers were speculating as to whether the two men would meet or not, and it was late into the reception hour, and finally Grant did arrive. So does anyone know what they talked about on the front porch to the Elbron Hotel? President Grant, ex-President Grant, said, congratulations, Mr. President, I don't want to steal your thunder, and he exited from the reception. All right, if you want, we can move over here, and we can talk a little bit about the building. I guess they're all looking at the little trap door inside the Garfield Tea Hut, and there's much speculation as to what was kept in that trap door. I know what I would have kept in that trap door, but I was a product of the 1970s. But in the 1880s and 90s, and Oliver Byron, supposedly he just kept cheese and those types of things in there. But anyway, as you know, or as many of you may know, Long Branch for 100 years, 200 years was primarily a farming and fishing community. The local residents had 500-600 acre farms, and they worked the farm, and they tilled the ocean, and they lived off the land. Right after the Revolutionary War, there were one or two people that realized that New Yorkers and Philadelphians wanted a place to relax during the hot months. So they started coming down and renting rooms in boarding houses. And then by the 1850s, there were dozens of hotels and boarding houses in Long Branch. In the early 1860s, right after the outbreak of the Civil War, there was a builder from White Plains, New York, with the name of Louis Blanchard Brown, and he came down here in the summer of '62 just to enjoy some of the ocean breezes, same thing that Garfield wanted. And then the summer ended, and everyone else went back home. They went to Philadelphia, they went to New York, and Louis Brown stayed through October and November, and he started thinking to himself, he's like, you know, there's more to the Jersey Shore than just the hotel life for the summer and then go back to New York. There should be more to that, and he started thinking, and he hooked up with Howard Potter and James Brown from Brown Brothers, which is today Brown Brothers and Harriman, and they bought all of the land from Tackanassie Lake to the Deal border, which is just 100 yards that way, and they decided to lay out an exclusive cottage colony. Houses like across the street, that was considered a cottage. That actual cottage there was H. Victor Newcomb. I'm sure you've heard of the L&M Railroad. The Newcomb family were one of the founders and presidents of the L&N. And after Victor retired from the railroad, he came to New York, he founded the U.S. Bank of New York, and then he built that house in 1881. And it's actually at that house that Mrs. Garfield received the news that her husband had been shot. Mr. Newcomb let the First Lady use the Newcomb carriage and horses to get her belongings to the Long Branch Elbron train station and get back to Washington. But what Brown did with Potter and James Brown was they built these cottages. And it really can't be any simpler than if you build it, they will come. And they built it and they came. And it didn't hurt that James Brown from the banking business, his two brothers, Edward Tuckerman and William Appleton Potter, were architects of their day. And they designed a lot of the houses that were built here in Elbron. If any of you have ever been at Princeton University, you'll know that a bunch of buildings at Princeton University were also built by Potter and their business partner, Robertson. And it's actually Potter and Robertson that designed this structure. And it goes to figure it's all connected. But this was originally, before this was built in 1879, all of the summer cottagers here, which included President Grant and George Childs and Anthony Drexel and George Pullman and Generals Sherman and Sheridan and General Washington or Wilson. Everyone remembers General Wilson is the one that fought Jefferson Davis trying to escape just as a woman? Well, yeah, he was another guy down here. General Wilson, not Jefferson Davis. But they all went during the summer months. They attended the St. James Chapel or the St. James Church on Broadway Avenue. By the mid-70s, excuse me, they were getting tired of driving the dusty roadways, and their women's dresses, their wives' dresses were getting dusty from the road. So they decided to build this chapel. Now, when you look at the chapel, just imagine in 1879, this tower is not here. And that's what the original building was. The rear section was forward, connected right here to the front section. And that's the chapel that everyone who worshipped here up until 1893. That was the St. James Protestant Episcopal Chapel here at Elbron. And that was the chapel that President Garfield attended and President Grant, or ex-President Grant, attended. In the early 1890s, the congregation had grown. They decided an addition was needed, so they cut the building really 2/3 to 1/3, moved the 1/3 back, and built the tower. What a beautiful idea, and what a disastrous idea. Because that led to a great deal of the structural decay to the building from the 1890s up to the 1990s. By the 1930s and 40s, the membership who was regularly worshiping here during the summer months, which included right across the street at 1 Ocean Avenue in Deal, that long red fieldstone wall that's there. That was the outline of the property for Hamilton Fish Keene, the grandfather to our former governor and great-grandfather to our current state senator, Tom Kean Jr. They were also regular worshipers here at the St. James Chapel. As a matter of fact, it was Hamilton Fish Keene who in 1931, at the 50th remembrance of Garfield's passing, stood on the grounds and delivered the keynote address for the memorial service for President Garfield. So we fast forward to the 1930s, 1940s, the membership is dying down. They can barely keep the building. Maintenance and by 1950, the Diocese of Trenton decided to deconsecrate the building, tear the building down, and sell the land. Enter into the picture the city of Long Branch, Edgar Dinkelspiel, summer resident here, Bernard Sandler, who was a New York lawyer, and they founded the Long Branch Historical Museum, and they were charged by the mayor of Long Branch with the task of, is there some way that we can save this building? They had many meetings in Trenton with the diocese, and one of the things that Mr. Sandler found was a reverter clause in the original deed to the property, that if the building ever ceased being used for religious purposes, the ownership to the building or the ownership to the land would revert back to the original owners, who were the descendants of Louis Brown, Anthony Drexel, George Childs, George Pullman. So what Dinkelspiel and Sandler did was they contacted the descendants of all the original benefactors and had them turn over their rights to the land to the Long Branch Historical Museum Association. After doing that, then they convinced the Diocese of Trenton that it would cost them nothing to donate the building to the Museum Association as opposed to spending the money to tear it down. So that's what they did, and in 1954, the museum was officially opened and dedicated, and from 1954 until 1997, it opened during the summer and off-season by appointment to house some presidential artifacts. Many people probably remember the art shows that took place here from the 60s. You know, I grew up, I was born and raised about 150 yards that way, so I spent a lot of my youth here in the extra lot next door and here, the art shows, and those were some great memories. Unfortunately, you know, the amount of money that can be realized from an art show, and I say this to all my history-minded people, we can't save buildings like this from tea parties and art shows, and we need a lot more money than that. And unfortunately, by 1997 and 1998, the building had become so deteriorated that I think it was in the year 2000, it was placed on New Jersey's top 10 list of most endangered historic sites in New Jersey. We had reached out to Monmouth Historic Society and asking them if they would like to partner, and they actually walked through the building with Guy Hemling, who's been one of our contractors over the years, and they were scared to death that the building was literally going to collapse on top of them. And they, you know, pretty much the feeling was the building could not be saved, and we were left on our own. Edgar Dinkelspiel, who had been president since 1964, died in 1997. His wife Florence took over as president, and then she died 9 years later. But Edgar's dying wish to Florence on his deathbed was, please do whatever you can to save the building. And she did, and she put up a lot of her own money. We did receive, I think it was $467,000 of a matching grant from the State Historic Trust. Monmouth County Historic Commission has been wonderful to us every year for the past 10 or 12 years. The Garfield Tea Hut, the Bell, the new Leaders and Gutters, so many small projects here at the building, courtesy of the Monmouth County Historic Commission. So next time you're talking to any of them, just say thank you on behalf of the Church of the Presidents. Just last winter, about 12 months ago, if you look at the Red Cross stained glass windows, those have been completely restored, and they were reintroduced to the building. There's 2 per corner, so there's 8 of those crosses, and that's one of the things we're going to do today, is flip the switch and light them from the inside so that you'll be able to see them. You may have to wait till it gets a little darker, but anyway, we're really excited. We just finished a small project in the back of the building, again with the Monmouth County Historic Commission grant. So right now, except for the doors and the windows, the exterior of the building is rehabbed. The shingles, the siding, the painting, and a special thanks to Sipperstein's Paint because they did testing on the paint when we started this. These are the original colors of the building from 1879. And I was actually reading one of Edgar Dinkelspiel's histories that he had written, and he talked about the drab green and grays that he painted over in the 60s with that bright white, which so many of you remember. But that was not the original color. These are the original colors, and that's what we wanted to do. Are there any questions before we all attempt to go inside? And I can tell you a little bit about why it seems as though it's taken forever to reach this point where the exterior shell is looking pretty good. Yes, sir. The red brick building has no historical significance other than it was built to put bathroom facilities in the back of the building, and the front is where they kept the grill and the kitchen material for when they sold the hamburgers and hot dogs during the art shows. All right. Yeah.
What is that building we got here at the church?
Right. That one is President Garfield's Tea Hut. This one is just a little playhouse off one of the mansions here in Longford.
It was relocated here?
It was relocated here.
You go from where?
I believe it was unfortunately, the house in disrepair on Westwood Avenue. Yes. Why was the tower added? It was just to give more room for the building. So between 1879 and 1892, the membership had grown where the original size wasn't big enough. Is there a hand over here? Yes, sir.
When was the church on Broadway built?
When is anyone here? I think Broadway was about 1855, but don't quote me on that. I think it was about 1855.
Where was Tea Hut?
The Tea Hut started out in the Highlands at Oliver Byron's house. Then it went to North Long Branch to the Presley house.
Atlantic Avenue?
Yes. Yes.
Is the church now sound? Is the structure?
Yes. And you'll see how sound it is when we get inside. Anyone else?
What about the back that doesn't look finished?
I'm sorry?
The back, the white.
Right. That's all the back needs now is painting. So that's ready to go. You can see where there's some new shingles, and then the white shingles that just need scraping and painting, which will happen in the spring. All right, now we're going to try to fit all of you inside. Okay, ready, Lise? All right, let's go. How many more we have coming there, Lise?
A lot more.
All right, come on in. Is that Ava's in? All right. Yeah, keep them coming. Come on, we can fit some more in here. Just please don't call the fire marshal.
What do you think about this pew from 1860 something? Yeah.
No, bring it again. Hold that again. If I can just say this, wow. Thank you, each and every, seriously, thank you for being here today. Thank you for making this in my opinion, already an overwhelming success. And as I said outside, I just want to now publicly thank Randy Gabriellan, because not only is he the Monmouth County historian, but he also serves on the Monmouth County Historic Commission, which you know gives out grants to some historic structures throughout Monmouth County. And most recently, Randy is the vice chairperson of the committee, and they voted to award the Church of the Presidents another grant which is going to help us get this door here completely renovated. If you see it, it's right over there. It has beautiful stained glass in the door itself. So by summertime, this project should be finished, so that next time you come for a little talk, hopefully we'll be able to let you in a little bit further. But I just want to publicly thank Randy since he's here today, and we have to go out to Freehold later this month.
Thank you for hosting the event.
All right, and I also, where's Avis? Is Avis here? Did I see Avis, or am I hallucinating? I thought I saw Avis, but anyway, Avis Anderson, as you know, is the curator of the Monmouth Museum at Brookdale College. A year and a half, 2 years ago, they hosted an exhibit of Monmouth County, and we were fortunate that they allowed us to have a presidential exhibit there. So some of the artifacts from here were over at Brookdale. And then currently the Ocean Township Museum, and I see the royalty from Ocean Township here today, they have a year-long exhibit, and it runs through June, although I've heard rumors that it is so successful that they may extend it past June, so let's hope that it does. Because it's truly the nicest exhibit I've seen on presidential memorabilia. So my hat's off to Ocean Township. Good job, Ocean. Yes. The question was, did this building have Todds and turnbuckles? Yes, let me get to that when we're talking about what you see. As we talked of on the outside of the building, the exterior shell, except for the doors and the windows, is now complete. We have a little touch-up painting to do in the back of the building, but finally the exterior shell for now is completed. If you looked up at the tower, you can see restoration that's already taken place needs to be taken place again. And unfortunately, when you're within an eye shot of oceanfront Saltaire, it's a constant struggle to maintain the building. But we're now ready to start doing some work on the inside so that we can have events like this on a more regular basis. So the sad part about it is when the building was in jeopardy of falling down, and when I tell you it was in jeopardy of falling down, it is truly a miracle that it didn't fall down. The red brick walls for the bottom were just built right on the ground. They didn't dig down 3 feet and put in footings. It was just built right on the ground. Where you're standing now is just a dirt floor. So the termite damage over the years and all those types of things, the damage was tremendous. And for many years, when we were working on the building, we were working on the inside. So everybody driving by saw the dilapidated exterior of the building, and every year we ask for money, and every year you drive by and it still looks like hell, and you're like, where's my money going? Somebody's on the tape. Well, where the money was going, well, you couldn't see it from Ocean Avenue. You're standing on steel reinforced concrete. I'm standing on one of these steel L brackets, which when the floor is reintroduced, these L brackets will be hidden by the floor. The entire building is now supported from the cement and the steel. After the entire weight of the building is now on these steel L brackets and the cement, then we had to go through 4-foot sections at a time and dig underneath the red brick and put in foundations. And that took a long time and it took a lot of money, but we had decided as a board of trustees, we're going to do it right. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And there were, I guess, easier or cheaper or whatever ways to do it. The board wanted it to be restored to its original condition to the best of our ability, and that's what we've done so far. And as a board member since 1998, it was not easy listening to some of the criticisms that we took. Oh, there's another group? All right, so, in other words, I shouldn't speak forever. Read in between the lines, all right?
Wow.
Yes, you can see the red crosses, which is really beautiful. And a gentleman, the stained glass window expert, Art Vermella, from South Jersey, did a wonderful job in restoring these windows, and Guy Hembling put them back in last winter, and it really looks nice. You see, some of the trim, which will go up here. When the interior is restored, you won't see any of the steel, you won't see any of the cement. All of that will be covered with the new floor. We'll probably leave 1 or 2 sections of a wall open so that people will be able to see what some of the original woodwork looked like, just for those that are interested in those types of things. But yes, the young man asked a question here about were there turnbuckles and all. Yes, over the years when Edgar Dinkelspiel was president, there were repairs and reports and examinations and things like that done. And what was happening with the tower, it was basically bowing out in the middle. So they used the turnbuckles across, and thinking that they were going to hold the building together and stop it, but over years with the leaks in the roof and the metal rusting, and it was a disaster. And that's why, after Edgar passed, we had to go with these L brackets and the steel and the concrete, and then the foundations and all those. All those turnbuckles have been removed because they were actually exacerbating the problem as opposed to helping it.
Is this an original pew?
Yeah, I'm sorry?
Original?
Yes.
Is there any more?
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, on the pew?
Sorry.
The question was, is this an original pew? And the answer is yes. And then this follow-up question was, are there any more? Yes. When the building is restored, and as I said, my goal, the board's goal is we're going to have a part of the interior of the building open to the public within the next year. I was hoping to get it done by this August. I'm not sure if we're going to meet that deadline, but definitely within the calendar year 2017, where you walk in, you'll be standing at the height that Lisa Kelly is standing, and at least halfway to the tower, so that we could have small assemblies, and you won't have to stand. We'll have folding chairs for you and those types of things. The mission of the museum, dating back to Edgar Dinkelspiel in the 1950s, was to put on display the presidential artifacts that we have and other historically significant items to Long Branch. All right, and that is definitely part of the building when it reopens. But we also have to think a little bit more than that because we're going to have to be self-sustaining. So certainly, probably 50% of the building from here to the tower will be used as presidential exhibits and historic exhibits. And then from the tower forward, we'll have that available for community use, whether it's the Long Branch Historical Society wants to meet here, or the whatever, the Women's Club, the Rotary Club, whatever Monmouth County Historic Commission wants to, get out of Freehold one night, they can come here and have a meeting and have it available for use, similar to the way the Monmouth Beach Life Saving Station has it available for community use. And that way it will be a continuing source of funding. Okay? Now apparently we have another group waiting outside. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
What is that plaque there?
That plaque's 1894 for a Long Branch Board of Education. That was thank you. That was donated to the museum. More than most likely, when we're up and ready, that will be donated back to the Board of Education.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Did Dinkelspiel own a gun from John Wilkes Booth?
Okay. The question is, as some are leaving, the question is, did Dinkelspiel own the gun from John Wilkes Booth? No. what Dinkelspiel, well, what the Long Branch Historical Museum Association owned, which Dinkelspiel was the curator of, was the deed signed by Aaron Burr from 1801 for land next to Christ Church in New York City. So that, you know, things over the years get twisted. And
We ring the bell. Can we ring the bell?
His wife is I don't think he's very worried about that. Well, nobody threw anything at me, so that's, you know. What? Yeah, too many. Good, how you doing? Have no seat.
All right, so, oh, no, yeah, well, it's really